Hello world! I'm Tom Swiss here with the lovely and talented Thorn Mooney.
Sometimes.
And we are at the Free Spirit Gathering. And having both found ourselves here as Paganism bloggers, I thought we could record a little video blog and talk about FSG and our experiences here and tell people about the event. I think I first met you here at the Bardic Circle.
That's true. So, true facts. Free Spirit Gathering was my very first festival, and one of the most striking things about Free Spirit Gathering was Mr. Tom Swiss and his very magical purple top hat. He was emceeing. Yes, put that on. I don't even know who you are.
There we go.
Thank
have to adopt the appropriate persona.
Yes, God, he looks like something out of a Bowie video or something now. So anyway, he was emceeing the performers, and then he also kind of, I don't actually know what your official role is with the main fire circle, but whatever it is, you look like you just kind of popped out of the woods and are doing some magical things. So he was like prancing around with his purple top hat looking like some kind of trickster god, and I was just like in my early 20s like, oh my god, I need to be involved in this. And yeah, when I think about Free Spirit Gathering, I think about that purple hat, so you can never lose it. And now we're friends. I'm really pumped that we're friends. So
well, this is my 20th FSG. I realized on the way up here I still have the tent tag from 1998 hanging from my rearview mirror, and I do not have a fence post error. Even though it's 20 years, it's still my 20th because I did skip 1 year for reasons we won't go into here.
Cool.
But
I have all the parking passes in my car still.
Yeah,
every parking pass is still on the dash of my car. Yeah.
About stack about the
well, they kind of blow around sometimes, so they're sort of just everywhere. Every now and then, my mom or somebody will try to throw them away. I'm just like, no, they're my magical car talismans. So yes, Free Spirit is my favorite week of the whole year. This is, like, no matter how big it is or how small it is or what's on the workshop grid or whatever I'm dealing with that year, Free Spirit is the place that I know that I can go to kind of recharge and reconnect with people who are really important to me in really surprising ways. Like, I got people here who I have seen just for this week for almost a decade, and I might never talk to them for the rest of the year, but man, we're so pumped to see each other, and it's just, I don't know, like this place and these people feel like family. Like, I would be very happy to die on these grounds, hopefully in front of the children.
I'm going to teach you about life, kids.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned the fire circle, which is one of my favorite things here. As I was just telling some of our friends here, the story came up of my first night at the fire circle, my first FSG 20 years ago. I was helping my friend Joe Galitsky in the kitchen. He recruited me to come here and experience Free Spirit Gathering. And sun went down and heard some drums from down the hill there. And okay, time for drumming, fire. I know how that works. We did that in my little circle, the Coven of Lovin', back in the day. And I get down there and they got a nice big fire going, and there's people dancing around the fire naked. I'm like, whoa,
naked?
I'm not. This is. I don't know about this, but
I don't either.
Yeah, it was a hot June night, and I'm like, I'll take my shirt off because it's a guy. It's not really, it's not really a thing to take your shirt off, but. Well, about an hour later, I decided, you know what, it's hot, and it's nice to have everything exposed to sacred fire, and so off came the pants, and I danced naked around the fire, and it's never been the same since.
Those pants are still out there, roaming the woods.
There have been pants lost. A friend of mine from I will not name. If you recognize this story, I will not say your name, but a friend of mine came with one of the bands was playing one year. Just came, on the day for the concert, and lost his pants. He has no idea where his pants disappeared to over the course of the evening, and I think his wife had to bring him another pair so he could drive home. Stories like that are why we come to Free Spirit Gathering.
Oh, man. Oh, I had some of my most profound religious experiences here, and it's funny, like, as a traditional Wiccan who's accustomed to comparatively elaborate ritual and structure, it's been fascinating actually having some of my most impactful moments here in this space that's very free and very, very different than what I would do when I'm at home. I went to my first, like, really large both my first really large ritual, but also my first transpossession ritual, like openly transpossession ritual, was with a group called the Universal Temple of Spirits, who does a ritual here every year. And I got invited by some friends who I just met that day, who I still keep in touch with. And they were like, oh, you need to go to this thing. I was having dreams about a deity who I wasn't really sure, like what. I was 23, right? So I'm like, does this mean something? Right? It's got to be really serious, because everything's really serious when you're new to witchcraft, and you know, in your early 20s. It's just true, guys. I don't mean that as an insult, but that's who I was. And going to this ritual, and I totally just had my doors blown off. Both because whether or not I had my own ideas about the divine solidified at that point, I could see that these people believed entirely in what was going on, and just seeing that level of commitment like really hit me, and it changed how I did things when I got home.
It was interesting what you said about Thorn did a lovely workshop for us about archery as devotional practice the other day, and you said that Wicca can be sort of a living room religion. Because I found that I went to Pantheacon a couple of years ago over in California, which is a hotel.
It's one of those hotel religions.
It was very strange, because I'm used to this, to Starwood, to back when we used to have Free Spirit Beltane, some other events that we've had up here.
Yeah, Pantheacon is my only indoor festival too.
Yeah, so it was a very different sort of experience to not be outdoors.
Well, energetically, it's really different. Like things feel contained, and I know that the crew that puts that on does a lot, magically speaking, to facilitate things, and they do a great job. But it's a very different feel.
Don't mean to say that they're doing anything wrong. Just this is very different to be inside in an air-conditioned space, and
I want to know why I can't be naked. I don't see why it being a DoubleTree hotel has anything to do with anything. I should be able to be naked.
Suits me, yeah.
Comment if you agree.
Don't see.
I'm kidding.
I don't see why,
Right? Anyway, sorry, I totally just knocked us off task there. The indoor experience is really different, and having rituals, Wicca tends to be, we talk a really big game about connecting with nature and the cycles of the moon and the seasonal cycles, and it's the trees, it's the ground, it's the rocks, it's the moon, it's everything. But there's an awful lot of stuff that just happens in living rooms, like on coffee tables. And I'm not saying that that's a problem. You can work very effective magic indoors, and I don't think the house is going to get in the way of the gods talking to you. But it's a very different experience working outside.
Yeah, it's certainly where my initial experience was our little apartment, a bunch of us hanging out there in the DC suburbs. And then once in a while we would get out into a field somewhere, and I do wonder if that's something that people forget about sometimes, that the idea of nature rather than the actual get out and there's bugs and there's rain and but that's part of it too, is an aspect of the do we want to worship, in the sense of assign worth to, as we talked about before, actual nature with all of its annoyances, sitting out here, and its beauty. So we just had a hummingbird zip by and then zip by, and then there's a bug in your face too. Yes, I had here in my campsite was the swarming of the flying ants yesterday afternoon. It was quite lovely. There's you will probably still find a bunch of flying ant wings in my little portable wagon there.
What message do they have for you?
I don't know. I'm going to have to take everything else out and
Where's
do a
Ted Andrews?
Do a little divination on the insect parts there, I suppose.
Well, I think part of it too. I think we get in trouble. So paganism, right? And Jason Mankey and some of the other folks talk about big tent paganism, right? Like this is, we've really got a ton of different kinds of religions, and I think one of the things that gets us in trouble is collectively we really like to fling around the phrase nature religion. We do it whether we're Druids or Wiccans or whatever. We love the term nature religion, and my understanding of Wicca and many kinds of witchcraft collectively is that, first of all, Wicca specifically, I would argue, is not specifically a nature religion. I would call it at most not at most, that was the wrong phrasing, but it's a fertility religion.
Right.
Okay? And whatever that means, read my book. But
traditional Wicca, Seeker's
Guide,
coming soon from the well.
I got lots of feelings if you want them. But witchcraft is not necessarily a nature-based practice. It has a lot more to do with using what you have. And as somebody who was born in a big city, who was raised in a big city, we can't dismiss those living rooms.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of really important stuff that happens there. So I think maybe we're talking about different kinds of paganism sometimes. And I think that's fair. So I try not to use the phrase nature religion. I like nature personally. I enjoy bugs in my face for the most part. But that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with my practice of Wicca.
Sometimes I think, and I talk about this in Why Buddha Touched the Earth. Sometimes
on Megalithica, right?
Yeah, from Megalithica books,
right.
available bookstore near you. Sometimes we can, I think, the phrase nature religion, as I was looking at the history, sometimes the phrase nature religion might be getting back to looking at our own self-nature rather than artificial. Not necessarily nature in the sense of trees and bugs and animals, but that the whys of paganism and before that, the transcendentalists, the romantic movements, all these kind of going back to a reaction against the Industrial Revolution and the artificiality. I mean, if you go back, you know, to the 1700s, what do you mean we're still in the middle of nature? There's not a lot that's not nature. Only when we have a lot of artifice do we start to question what nature is.
I think you see that a lot in early Wicca. When we're talking about the development, when folks like Gardner and Valiente and the people that they were working with are kind of solidifying their movement, whatever perspective you want to take on that specific piece of history. Got to remember that we're on the heels of industrialism. We're on the heels of the war, right? Like people are. Europe is a mess, and people were looking for something that was pure, right? Whatever the hell that means, okay? But something that was more authentic, more natural. And they were looking to people like Thoreau and the other transcendentalists, and they were looking at romantic poetry, and they were kind of constructing nature. You know, it's interesting. Like even with the transcendentalists, right? Like Thoreau wasn't roughing it. You know, he was a couple miles away from town, and he'd like put his cheese and bread in a sack and stroll 2 miles into town for his tea.
It was nature like Central Park nature, not nature like you know, like Gary Snyder hanging out in the woods for months at a time.
It's not like Daniel Boone trying to date a bear. Like so we construct nature, and I think we're still constructing nature. I mean, even here at Ramblewood, like. It's not like we're running from apex predators or something. Although that might be good for attracting more people to the festival. I would sign up if there was a bear hunt.
We have had, let's see, I know we've seen horses, deer, foxes.
Oh yeah.
But I don't think we had bear sightings in the area, I believe, but I don't know that we've had bears actually on Ramblewood ground.
I've seen foxes. So last year during maybe it was 2 years ago, during the opening ritual, I got a line. Like, I usually don't participate in anything. I usually just come and let other people do the work, and then I enjoy it. But I had, like, a line during the opening ritual, and it was very dramatic, I'm sure. And this fox runs across the field, and I was just like, yes, it's me and my witchcraft. I'm so magical. And really vain. So I thought it was about me. But anyway. Nature!
Any comments from the peanut gallery out there? We have a few camera shy participants in the out here.
Refer back to me by my first name, I will do this.
Okay, Kat. Yes, would you like to give us
Want to join us? I'm gonna scooch over here. I have a purple top hat.
So you have been coming to FSG for many years.
Since 87.
87, yeah. So before my time, even. What brought you to your first Free Spirit gathering?
I was new to Wicca, and looking up any festival, any gathering, I came to here. I went to one in Baltimore, Ecumenicon, which I don't think exists anymore.
It was still around a couple years ago, but because I spoke there in 2012, but I haven't kept up.
Esotericon, which I know is gone. That was in New Jersey. But this is the one that felt right.
Now, how did you find it? Kids, there was a time before Google. So how did you even find
What?
out about it back in those days?
If I remember right, it was a book, paperback book. It was a guide to pagan groups.
Okay. Yeah, I think we were listed in like one of the appendices of Drawing Down the Moon or something
like
back then.
that.
So yeah, I guess there were other printed resources one could find back then.
Was it Jarena Donwich who had the Wicca source book? Do you guys remember that? It was just a book of like addresses and events.
Yeah, there was a
The
book.
Wicca source book.
Right.
That thing was great.
That was kind of the whole concept of the Free Spirit Alliance. If you go back in our historical documents, because let's see, the first FSG was 1985, I believe, and it was to provide networking for the pagan and pantheist community. Because again, there was not social networking in those days. Did not mean Facebook.
Right.
You know, how would you meet all these other people?
And it's incredibly hard to find a teacher. And you're trying to learn, and okay, here's this place, and we're going to have all these teachers,
Yeah.
all this information that you can go and. I'll cut back, but I think the first couple of ones I was taking workshops back to back all day, every day.
Yeah, I did that too.
And you met Elspeth and Nybor here?
Actually, I met them at Ecumenicon,
Okay. Oh.
and saw them at Esotericon, and then here,
Okay.
and got to know them over the years. And then they hand-fasted and married us here. So,
Pretty good folks to have get that done by. Yeah.
yeah, they say we're one of their success stories. Even if we were airheads 18 years ago when we got married. She says, yeah, they were airheads, but they got better.
I was brought by people.
Yeah.
That's how I got here.
Dragged here up in the trunk of the car? Or?
I should rephrase that. I came of my own volition, but
Okay.
I found out about the festival through friends.
As I did, yeah.
Yeah, I was close with some folks who were involved in Blue Star Wicca.
Oh yeah.
And
we have
there
quite
was
a Blue Star contingent.
Yeah, there's
here.
a big Blue Star contingent here for a while, and I knew that they had gone for a long time, and they weren't going that year, but I knew of the festival, and I was like, I had a non-pagan friend, who I just bullied. I was like, I can't go to this thing by myself. I believe it or not, guys, at one point in my life, I was actually quite timid. I've gotten over it. Clearly.
This is what happens if you come to Free Spirit long enough. You get
And
over
that friend
things
is
like
pagan
this.
now. So, you know. And I brought somebody new every year. So now I have a cabin of my friends instead of just me in a tent.
I've brought people here, and I love that. I can't do that. Like,
I
I can't dance around the fire.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hot. I don't want to wear a shirt anymore.
Well, what would you say your favorite part of Free Spirit Gathering is? It keeps bringing you back year after year.
People.
The people.
This is my family now. When we go away, we say, we're going to our family reunion. May not be
that's
family
it.
by blood, but this is my family of choice. This is my tribe. Someone said, it's family, some from my family I haven't met yet, but I will. Every year I meet more of my family.
Yes, so Thorn and Kat both mentioned cabins. For those who are not familiar with Ramblewood, you may tent as I am, as you can see the portable castle behind us here, because I like my space. But there is also there are some very luxurious cabins with hot and cold running water and Tempur-Pedic mattresses.
Yeah,
yes.
I sleep better here than I do at home.
Yes, it is quite hoity-toity camping. There is a dining hall, so you can show up and not need anything except a couple changes of clothes and your toiletries.
It's like the transcendentalist version of camping. Thoreau would love it here.
Yes, it is. It can be as easy as you want it to be. So that is I think that's a good option for a lot of folks who couldn't make it to events where it's a little bit more rougher camping, and especially as we get a little older, a little grayer. It's an option more and more of us may take. But yeah,
The clothing optional is very freeing.
yeah.
For people that, especially people that don't have perfect bodies, you think, I can't do this. I don't have a perfect body. And you get here and you see all kinds of people.
Yeah.
This is a place I've described. You could walk down through here in a suit of armor, and somebody could walk behind them totally skyclad, and nobody's going to give either one of them a second look.
Yes. Yeah.
That's true.
That was a big thing for me. Like that, I said that first night at the fire. The wildness of going skyclad, and I think if you Google "wild naked pagans," one of my essays will, my old blog post will pop up.
Maybe
about
even
that.
a picture.
There is actually. So, it's something that festivals provide a wildness. People have talked about rewilding Wicca. I know that was a rewilding witchcraft. That was a big topic a couple years ago, and coming to an event like this is an opportunity for wildness that you can't necessarily do in your apartment at home. Drumming at 2 a.m. Your neighbors in the next apartment may not be down with that, but you can do that here. Yeah, you can run around. You can run around skyclad in your living room, I suppose, but not in your backyard. You can do that. Again, depending.
Sure. Sure.
But
with a society that makes so many people body conscious.
Yes.
This is the ideal, this anorexic looking person. And you're not comfortable with your body, and it's like, okay.
I would have to say that coming here and just seeing such a variety of human bodies. When I went I was coming here before I went and studied shiatsu and acupressure and massage, and it made it that when I was working, when I'm working on naked people, and rolling back the sheet, and okay, we're working on gluteus maximus here. Like, okay, I have seen a whole variety of human bodies in all of its glory, all of its glorious diversity. Before I had to put hands on them, that was really a good experience.
So one of the things that I wrote about a couple of years ago was this: working skyclad is something that's really significant in traditional Wicca. A lot of traditional covens practice skyclad, and that is almost without exception people's hang-ups when they come to join, when they're interested, when they're seeking. I get a lot of folks who are like, man, this is really interesting, but I just can't take off my clothes. I can't. And it's always because there's of some kind of insecurity, whether it's, because here's the other thing too, is right, it doesn't even really matter what your body looks like. Everybody seems to hate theirs. Like even the people who we are supposed to look like, everybody has, and I'm not saying that all insecurities are equal, but one of the cool things about working skyclad is that's what you're working through. Like, you're not supposed to be okay with it initially. It's supposed to be a challenge. And when I first came to Free Spirit, first pagan festival, and I was not comfortable with skyclad work, especially beyond just with myself. And it got to the point where we'd been camping for a week, we'd gotten rained out of our tent a little bit, and it was just a question of practicality. And at some point I didn't care enough about whether or not anybody saw my underwear or whatever. And I've gotten to the point now where I actually am a little weirded out when I go to pagan events that aren't clothing optional, because I associate clothing optional with paganism. And I realize that that's not necessarily fair. Okay, we got plenty of people who are well clothed. I think most people don't walk around naked, okay? But that's kind of been one of the most powerful experiences, is coming to terms with my body through my practice of paganism and through my involvement in the pagan festival community, particularly Free Spirit.
Is one of those cartoons that went around the internet for years ago. I think summed it up well. It was a little circle, said your comfort zone. There's a little X out here, says where the magic happens. And that is the whole concept of any magical working. You have to raise energy, and if you're just doing what's comfortable and familiar to you, you are not raising energy. So that's my opinion. You got to do weird stuff. You want to make magic, you got to do weird stuff.
Which is not to say that you need to be naked. Just to give you another example in terms of going back to that conversation about wilding magical practice, wilding witchcraft. One of my favorite things that I can do in a ritual setting here that I don't get to do in my suburban home, I work with animal pelts, this idea of skin spirits, and being able to wear an animal hide and practice shape-shifting or transpossession or etc. and actually literally disappear into the woods. That's not a thing that I get to do in my neighborhood. It's certainly not a thing I get to do in my living room. And here, I got a group of people who will literally put on animal skins with me, and we're in the woods. I mean, if you wanted to reenact the wild hunt, maybe not around the kids, but it's a thing that you could conceivably do. And that's really cool. You can come and you can sit in a hammock and you can read your book for the whole week, or you can go get as nuts as you want to out in the woods.
And the kids, it's a good thing that we should mention here.
Speaking of the wild hunt, your children are welcome.
Yes, this is a family event. We do have a kids program, and Thorn did a archery for young people, teens workshop today. I understand you had more adults than teens show up.
That's cool. You know, it was 10 a.m. and teenagers are too cool to be told what to do. There's a lot of really good kids programming. I've even looked at the teen schedule and been super jealous at points. They had medieval combat this year.
Yeah,
right?
weapons,
what the heck?
I
want to boffer people.
Yeah.
There's
that
lots
looks
of
like
stuff.
a good workshop. Oh, it's just for the teens.
Dang kids, getting everything like jelly shoes and yoo-hoo.
If I broke out the black hair dye, shaved, think I could pass.
No, it would be weird. It would be creepy if you did that.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Well, then we won't do that.
Yeah. So it's a good way to get your family involved too.
Yes, we have generations. It was our theme a couple years ago. 3 generations under the tree. Mm-hmm. We have had grandparents and grandchildren.
I've watched kids grow up here. It's really weird.
Yeah.
Super weird.
Yeah, I remember the ones when I came 98, 96, first year. I remember young people like Arden and
the ones you've seen
the little ones.
All grown up and wow.
Leading workshops sometimes. Like I remember when you needed diapers in the pool.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder what it would be like to be able to grow up.
Yeah.
Most of us didn't have that.
It's an interesting question as we go, because so many of us are converts. Found paganism as adults, and now we are in the festival community. We are raising up a whole generation of kids here, and this is normal for them. So what will they do to get wild when?
I don't know. They'll become actuaries.
Yeah, could be.
I'm gonna run away and join a church.
Yeah. They'll rebel by becoming Methodists.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't know. I appreciate having been a convert and having to seek and discover this for myself. I think it makes me appreciative in a way that I wouldn't be had I been raised in it. And I know everybody's different and I can't speak to it, but even as kids, like we've got, again, young adults running around whose parents are pagans, and they leave and they come back, and their practices often look very different from their parents.
That's
so
true.
they're still walking their own paths.
Yeah, because they are coming. This is an eclectic event. It's not like being raised in your one tradition. So people when the kids come here, they are getting exposed to. We got the Vikings over there. We got the witches over here. We got the Druids over here, and so they are getting a well-rounded magical education.
That was actually something my first year, because I brought my son who was 9 or 10. Long discussion with him and his dad. This is what he's going to be exposed to. Are you okay with this? He's going to see people without their clothes on. Are you going to be okay with this? You're going to see me without my clothes on. Are you okay with this? Because if you're not, then I won't do it in front of you. But his dad still... One of the first pieces of art I bought was one of Nybor's Seder picture. I love the Seder. And I told my husband about it. He gave me the money for it, and I brought it home. And he looked at it, and his first comment was, "It's the devil." No.
Well, you'll have that.
I am surprised that he let our son come, because after we divorced, he went very, very Christian.
Okay.
But he was okay with it. And my son, I told him from a very early age, do not follow my path. Learn about Judaism, Buddhism, all kinds of religions, and choose your path. He did choose to become pagan. Different path, but
we have here. It's not an exclusive event. We have people who don't consider themselves pagan, but they're okay coming around, and we have or they are pagan and pagan and Christian, pagan and Jewish.
I've got certain traditions that I practice at home. Like devotional traditions that I totally picked up here. I think there's a very unique kind of theology that actually happens at Free Spirit, and I take it home with me. We've got a particular kind of polytheism that floats around here, particular ideas about devotion that I have just seen here, and it's fascinating. I definitely think that this is its own community with its own mores and its own traditions. So, and when I think about being Wiccan, I don't necessarily think about also being pagan. When I describe myself as pagan, I'm really thinking about things like Free Spirit. I'm thinking about the festival movement. I'm thinking about my communities here, because my own home coven and the coven that I'm in charge of at home, they're not all necessarily going to be comfortable here at Free Spirit. Like, this is a particular kind of paganism.
Right.
It's a broad paganism, but I think it's something separate, if that makes sense.
Well, let's see. This is what, Free Spirit 33, I believe. So it has been around long enough to develop its own culture, its own
beast,
mores. Even if you know, how many people have, not that many people have been here for 20, 30 years, but it is an example of how the culture gets passed along.
Absolutely.
And it's still here. And so many, because when I first started, there were festivals everywhere, and so many of them just died out.
Yeah, this one has survived. It's gotten smaller, and we were having conversations earlier about the shifting of kind of the pagan community collectively and why that might be the case. But that flavor has persisted.
And it does go, you know, we get it here, and then, you know, you take it back to your home coven, you take it back to your home group. And so I think even if not everyone can make it, even those who don't attend get some of the benefit of this mixing and matching.
And for those of us that come to de-stress,
you
get the advantage that I'm not going to bite your head off when I go home. I'm now all calmed down and de-stressed.
I bring you neat things from vendors too. There's always the buying of presents. There's always good. Yeah, my standards for pagan stuff are a lot higher, courtesy of the Merchants Row here. Just because, like, most things are handmade or they're customized or whatever, like, just really cool. So, and I've had the pleasure of being able to come here for years. So, like, everything in my ritual space is like, well, this is made by so and so, and you know, I've become friends with some of these people too.
It does have a little more magic than just going to your local metaphysical shop and picking something up.
Yeah, my ritual sword was made by a blacksmith who comes and sells here. Like, that's amazing.
And you're supporting community by buying from the people that come here.
Yeah. So really lucky. My Book of Shadows and my journal were made by Star Willow, who's over there selling her books right now still. And whenever I fill one, I'll bring it to her and be like, look what I did. You know. So like that part is really special. Diane and John, who run A Touch of Glass over here, they're amazing. Their stained glass is all over my house. But they also, last year I ordered a statue. This carved wooden statue of Freya, and I just got her this year. It took a year, and she's amazing, and she's one of a kind, and she's like, you know, you can't get that from a store. So that's the other value of these sorts of spaces.
Doesn't have the same energy as some mass-produced piece.
Yeah, so it's really special, and I know where that money is going. I know what went into it, and I don't just think about her. I think about the people who were able to make her for me.
We own a lot of their glass that I have a lot more respect for it, because I looked into taking classes and looked into what actually goes into making it, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like these pieces are, it doesn't look like it'd be that much work, but it is a phenomenal amount of work to create even the simplest stained glass piece.
That's another thing that we, you know, the workshops here are not just about necessarily tarot or archery or the fire circle.
There's a mead making
workshop.
There's
a lot of craft. Not the craft, but crafting.
Lowercase craft.
Yes, lowercase craft workshops here. So that is also an attraction.
I got inspired to write my book kind of inadvertently through here. There was a panel maybe 3 years ago about how to publish, and it was Kinaz Philon and Raven Caldera talking about like the traditional publishing route, and then Scott Monkern was talking about self-publishing. Lee Harrington, I think, was talking about the actual process of like owning a publishing house and what that is like, and just talking about that process. And it didn't necessarily have anything to do with paganism or being pagan, but actually getting to sit there. We've got a lot of authors who come here who publish by various platforms, and actually getting to sit down and interact with them and be like, huh, this is a thing I could do. Like, that was really cool.
Yeah, if that idiot wrote a book, yeah, I could do this.
I know, right? Guys, I wrote a book.
I've read his book. If he can do it, I can do
How
it.
did that happen? Right? You could write a book.
You could. You could write a
You
book.
could write books. Yeah.
Well, I was hoping that our Free Spirit coordinator would be able to join us, but I think he's been called away on whatever coordination business always comes up at,
He has to go
at
coordinate
these
things.
Yes. The staff at an event like this, whenever you see a festival staff member, give them lots of love. I'm not on staff this year. This is only the 3rd year out of my 20 that I've not been on staff because I needed a break. The festival staff works really hard to put these events on, so let's give them a round of applause. All our good,
Thank you.
hardworking
Thank you.
FSG staff. So we're sad that Traveling Tim was not able to join us, but we can tell you that there is a theme for next year's FSG already picked out. They have the artwork.
Is
and
it
the
bear
theme.
fighting?
It is not. It is not. It is Be Here Now, and the artwork is
Is it bees? Is there bee fighting?
We could be fighting.
Is this like the Nick Cage version of the Wicker Man?
They're going to import bees, so.
Now that could be
Yes.
that could be the
Instead of a
main
wicker
ritual
man,
for
a
next
giant
year.
wicker
Guys,
bee.
this is why I'm not asked to help.
But yes, next year's theme, Be Here Now, and
Oh no, my legs.
so the registration is opening, I think, at the end of this festival. So if this sounds really good to you, you could go and register now and get the best possible price.
They're
for
also approaching
FSG
people for
2019.
presenters, so if
Yes.
you have workshop ideas or people that you'd like to see.
And the
Yeah.
Masquerade, which is new, which they're doing again next year.
Cool.
Yes.
For the theme of Disney.
Okay.
Cool. I don't know about that. I'd rather have bear fighting, but that's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Uh,
There was bear fighting in Brave. There
we're
could
going
still
to
be
take
bear
Disney and see
fighting.
how we can make it twisted and work, so. Can't do
Cool.
cutesy Disney. We gotta do something.
Yes, we have masquerades. There are concerts. I don't think we mentioned the
There are
concerts.
concerts.
There are concerts and the Bardic Circle, which we mentioned, and the Fire Circle. What else? Are there any?
There's a fire troop that burns
Oh
things.
yes,
They're
yes,
amazing.
fire
Hubris.
spinning.
Oh my
hubris,
God,
and,
they're
and
so
classes. They do classes. They will train you to
It's im-
spin fire.
It's impossible to come to Free Spirit for any length of time without learning how to spin poi. Like, that's actually impossible.
I think it is.
You will
I think
learn.
it's in the contract.
You will observe
It's in the fine
and
print
just
somewhere.
absorb it into your
Yes.
body.
How to spin fire without setting yourself on fire.
I didn't say that.
Yeah. Nor even how to like not hit yourself with. I still
didn't say that
love.
either.
I still love the tennis ball poi that I got at my
Oh,
poi
those are
workshop with
dangerous.
Hubris, and they battered and bruised me quite a bit before I managed to not hit myself.
Yep.
with that.
So you should come to Free Spirit. Is where we're
Yes.
going with this.
I think that is. I think that's the conclusion.
we're
the,
really
the
lonely
summary.
and we need new friends. Yep.
Look at all this space.
Look at all
No,
this space.
Okay,
You
we
could be
can't really
tenting
show you
here.
because there's people back there who
We're not
probably
allowed to
don't
just
want their
record
faces
whoever
on
we
there.
want.
But trust me, there's a lot of space for tents here. There's space in the cabins, and you can come and have a good time.
You could be in this video.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of you could be in this video, Thorn and I will both be at the Starwood Festival next
Yay!
month, and I hope to. If people watch this, we might do this again at Starwood. Maybe we can get Ian Corrigan or Oberon Zell.
Oh my
Ravenheart
God! If
or some of these
Oberon Zell
people.
Ravenheart was in a video with me, I might keel
This.
over and die.
Would this not be not the killing over and dying bit, but
That'd
would
be
that
so
not
amazing.
be? Would that not be?
Or
amazing?
Ian Corrigan.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh God.
We could get Ian if I bring a bottle of whiskey, we can get Ian,
Ian
to
Corrigan.
participate. I think so.
Ian
that's
Corrigan
easy.
is pretty
That's
rad.
easy, but,
Oh my God! I want to talk to Oberon Zell.
yeah.
Oh my God! He's an actual wizard.
Oberon bought my book.
What?
Oberon bought my book.
Oberon made a birthday card with me out of construction paper for my friend.
She wins.
It was amazing. And I was so scared to go talk to him. Guys, I'm the biggest fangirl. Like, the biggest fangirl. Even like decades later, I'm still just like, oh my God. Yeah.
So, we
Come to Starwood. Come to Free Spirit.
Come to festivals. Come out, get outside of your comfort zone, and you may find your comfort zone expands. There we go.
You'll probably lose your pants.
You just might. But you'll find yourself.
Oh, that was terrible.
So thank you for watching. I'm Tom. This is
I'm Thorn.
This is Kat. And we'll see you around.
Yay. That was fun.
Yay.